Hi, this is Stuart Nachbar with Educated Quest. With me on this snowy day in New Jersey is Ann Kremer, who is Dean of Admissions at Drake University in Iowa. Ann, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the invitation.
How's the weather there? It's horrible here.
Oh, it's yeah, we are in the middle of the polar vortex like the rest of the country. We are coming out of it though. We're going to be in the teens, I think, today, and maybe even we'll push upper 20s over the weekend. So we're pretty happy about that. But feeling extremely grateful that we have heat and we have power systems that can handle this kind of pressure, and obviously around the country that hasn't necessarily been the case. So I'm grateful for the little things for sure.
And everyone's on campus right now? Anyone who
Yep.
wants to be on campus?
Everyone who wants to be on campus, yes, they're back. So it's been nice being back with our students for sure.
Well, the reason I asked Ann to join me in a conversation for all of you who visit the website is that Drake is the kind of school that a lot of parents and students wish there was more of. Drake has 5 undergraduate colleges, including pharmacy, including journalism, business, education, and arts and sciences, but it has just under 3,000 undergrads. It has as many majors as a school like maybe Rutgers or Penn State, aside from things like agriculture and architecture, where you need a big university. But you get a much more personal experience. Um, I had the opportunity to listen to Ann in an Iowa College's presentation a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to learn more about Drake, and I hope that the rest of you listening in will want to learn more too. Um, Aside from the student body size, what else separates Drake from other schools that kids are considering?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think really sets Drake apart is that, you alluded to this, Drake is a school that's got a lot of choice, right? For the size that it is, it has a lot of choice. And so when you think about a school with around 3,000 undergraduates, we have about 5,000 students total with graduate students because we have a law school, we have a pharmacy school, et cetera. You get a lot of it's designed to allow students lots of choice when it comes to excuse me, academic programs that they can choose from in one of those 5 undergraduate program or colleges. So we have over 100 different majors, minors, concentrations, certificate programs, etc. You have a vibrant undergraduate student body experience. There's lots and lots of organizations to get involved in. There's about 150 student organizations on our campus, ranging from everything like intramurals, Greek life, political organizations, religious, diversity, equity, and inclusion opportunities, leadership, incredible leadership cohorts, all of that kind of cool stuff that you can get involved in. And we also have Division I athletics, right? So if you're looking for what you might find at a Big 10 or a Big 12 type of institution or a larger institution, but at the same time are really interested in getting to know your faculty members, and you are somebody who is really interested in knowing your peers and what do they think about a particular topic, or you like a discussion-based class, and you're somebody who learns well in a discussion-based class where you're able to develop those relationships and explore ideas in the classroom rather than a lecture type of situation, Drake is a great place because it's small where it matters. Mentorship, building relationships, community are a really big part of our campus community culture. But at the same time, you can have a lot of really cool, excellent, diverse experiences on a vibrant campus, which we are very proud of and really excited to bring more students to.
Drake has majors where you need to take introductory courses that are quite common, like an intro biology course, a psychology course, economics, calculus. How are those courses managed compared to, say, a place like the University of Iowa?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we obviously have those classes, and some of those introductory courses might be a little bit bigger. Our average class size is around 21. Those might push 60 to 80 at times, but those would be classes where you typically would then still meet with the faculty member in a smaller group at least one time a week. So even though there are some larger classes that we just, what I will say is we simply don't have large classes on our campus because we actually don't have spaces to hold them. When we have large events, the largest place that we have is our NAP center, which is our athletic facility. And we don't hold classes in there. So on average, I would say, 60 to 80. But I think there's a statistic on our campus that's like over 90% of a student's classes will be, in that average class size.
Now,
There might be a handful that aren't.
now a class like a biology, a psychology, economics, if there's mathematics, a recitation will be taught by the faculty member.
That's true. Yeah, we do not have any teaching assistants on our campus. So everything that we do, every class that you teach, that you are taught or are sitting in, is taught by a faculty member. The other thing that I would add, and I didn't mention this when we talk about relationships, is that Drake is really, similar, I would say, to like on the panel that we did a couple of weeks ago. Grinnell spoke, and she shared, one of the deans shared that they have a faculty advising system. Drake has the exact same thing. So we have all of our faculty that do all of the advising. And if you're a student that has more than one major, you would have a faculty advisor that teaches classes in your program. They're a full faculty member. And they also will be you would have them as your advisor. So what's cool about that is that you get a chance to get to know them on a more personal level. They're teaching a class that you're in, but they also get a chance to see, like, when do your eyes light up about a particular topic or a subject? They might even be a really great person that recommends another double major or a minor. Have you ever thought, like, I know that you seem really passionate about this. Have you ever talked to this faculty member in this program? Or have you ever thought about coupling this or adding this or taking this class? So, they get to know, as a student, who you are and who you want to become. What city are you interested in living in? What grad program are you wanting to go into? What job do you want after graduation? All of those kinds of things. So you've got somebody in your corner that is your faculty advisor that's also teaching your classes and getting to know you on a more personal level. And like I said, if you have more than one major, you would have a faculty advisor in all of those areas too.
One thing about a much larger school is, let's say you're in the business school. Mm-hmm. It's often very difficult to double major because of the required courses, because there's some supplemental courses beyond the major, right, and a required core. Does Drake make that easier than, say, Iowa or Iowa State might make it?
Yeah, and I actually, I'm a graduate of Iowa State, actually, so I can speak to this from a little bit of experience too. But what I'll say is that, I don't know about, and I was able to double major, but it was within the same college. What I will say is that at Drake, the walls between our schools are very low. And what I mean by that is that it makes it easy for students to take classes, and it's actually encouraged to take classes or to pursue other programs in other majors while you're there. So if you want to be a marketing and Spanish major, marketing's in the College of Business, Spanish is in Arts and Sciences, we would encourage you to do that, to find ways that you can weave together programs that are interesting to you. And what I would say is different is because you have that faculty advising model, it's really easy to get connected up with the right people to make sure that your classes are all lining up, that you're double dipping between the colleges in the right places, and that you're still graduating on time, right? So I think that's one of the key differences, and that you have someone who knows you, who might also recommend or guide you in a direction that's just a little bit more organic. That's a little bit more organic, the way that it's built into the process. But and you also, are admitted into your major from the moment that you start at Drake. So if you're looking to go into accounting, or you're looking to go into health science or pharmacy, etc., you are admitted into those programs as a first-year student. There are a lot of really large institutions where you might be admitted to pre-business, or you weren't admitted directly into the college, and let's see how you shake out in some of these general education courses, and then you're fully welcomed into college. And for at Drake, that's not the case. You are admitted directly into your program. You're assigned an advisor right away. And so you feel like you're part of that community much sooner, I think.
So, but even for things like health science, can you walk in undeclared completely?
Yeah, you can. And actually, we call that open at Drake. And our students, open is one of our most popular majors for students coming in. And yes, you absolutely can. You can be open business. You can be open in the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. You can be open in journalism. You can be just open altogether in the College of Arts and Sciences as well. And then you're assigned a special advisor that works with students on sort of how to find your way. But yeah, we absolutely do have students that will do those programs too.
But is there a situation where somebody comes in open, or they come in, let's say, arts and sciences as a biology, thinking biology or pre-med, and then they decide they want to go to the pharmacy school?
Mhm.
Does that happen?
All the time. Oh yeah, all the time. I feel like pre-med is one of those more popular majors, and you see a lot of cool television shows that are like, this is what it's like to be a doctor or a surgeon or a nurse, and then you get into your first class and it's like micro level science stuff, or it could be a little too gory for you, and you're like, I really like watching this stuff on TV, but I'm not sure that I want this to be my life, and so yeah, I mean, our students will change their majors all the time, and we encourage it. I mean, not to the point where we of course want you to extend your time at graduation, but we like students coming in because it gives them the opportunity to explore, and sometimes students will have a major where it's like, this is what I want to pursue. I'm going to be a biology major. I'm going to do politics. This is what I want to pursue, but I'm also really interested in women's and gender studies, or I'm really interested in psychology, or I just like taking classes in religion because it's interesting to me, not because I want to pursue something, but because I see how this ties, some of my studies together. It's those critical thinking skills that you can gain from these other majors that might not be in a pre-professional program if you're in that track, but you're like, I just love this stuff. I love this subject area. So you can pursue that pretty easily.
So when people have chosen a major,
Mm-hmm.
are you admitting this? Are you admitting the student and looking at their transcript and anything else based on their interest in that major?
Yeah, I mean, when a student applies to the university, yes, we look at their transcript, their letters of recommendation, their essay, their whole piece, and then we would, evaluate them for admission to that direct program. Mm-hmm.
So if someone was pharmacy, you might be looking at their math and science grades more
Yes,
closely than other grades they have.
absolutely. We dial into like things like biology, chemistry, and so that we can make sure students have the proper coursework. And if they don't, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be admitted, but it's a flag on the advising piece of like, hey, we've got to make sure that this student is taking these courses when they get here. And sometimes students will get into that first semester and they're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to change. Or we'll get lots of students that, even over the summer after orientation, that they meet in their advising and they're like, when I'm putting pen to paper and I think about this major, I just don't know that this is really where I fit. So then they may decide to change, or they've got another idea that they came up with. I think one of the best pieces of advice I had heard and I provided to students is, once you pick a major, go look at the classes and the course descriptions of the major that you're actually going to take. You might think that, PR sounds really cool, but then once you get into it and you're like, man, this is a lot of writing. And I thought it was like party planning. That was me. I was like, I'm going to do PR. Like, this sounds like fun. I can plan some parties. But then I was like, wow, this is a ton of writing and I don't love to write. So it was not an avenue that I decided to go down. But what I was able to do by looking at some of those course descriptions and do some informational interviews, I was like, I don't know that this is going to be my path, right? So those are things I think that can be really helpful for students too, as you think about the major, but then dig in a little bit more and figure out what are the hoops you're going to have to jump through, or classes you're going to have to take to get there.
Now, Drake is in the largest city in a state,
We
and
are?
it's also the state capital. That's much like Ohio State is in
Yes.
Columbus, or the University of Minnesota is in Minnesota.
Yep.
How does Drake use the city in terms of
Yeah.
helping like a pharmacy student or a occupational therapy student find a practicum, a teacher, a business
Absolutely.
major, a communications major?
Yeah. Well, I would say that Des Moines is probably one of our biggest assets. And sometimes I almost think of it as like the sixth or seventh college, if you will, because it allows students to explore, right? Like, it is a city. Most people, I think, would be surprised to know that Des Moines is actually the fastest growing city in the Midwest. We beat out Milwaukee, we beat out Omaha, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis. We are the fastest growing city in the Midwest, and we've continued to grow even in the midst of the pandemic. This is a wonderful place to live, and it has transformed over the last probably 15 to 20 years. This is not the same Des Moines that it was if you've ever been here like 20 years ago. It has a vibrant downtown. It is with lots of really cool like small businesses, really cool, unique restaurants. It's a foodie town. It was ranked like #4 for entrepreneurial cities. It's a great place for anyone that's looking for entrepreneurialism to come because it's low cost of living, low rent space if you're looking to rent a space. And you've got a lot of talent here in Des Moines as well. And it is a great opportunity for students that are looking for schools that can offer just what you talked about, Stuart, about internships, practicum, shadow experiences, volunteer hours that you might want or need, or observation hours, because we are in a city and you can pursue this stuff year round. It's not like if you're in a really small town, maybe at a small liberal arts school that's tucked away in a small community, where it's like, well, I'm going to do my internship, but I'm going to do it this summer, because there really isn't an opportunity within a stone's throw of here. And when you're a student, you don't want to have to travel an hour or 90 minutes for an internship, because you have to travel there and you have to travel back and you have to study. The beautiful thing about Des Moines is you can get end to end in about 20 minutes, and downtown Des Moines from where we're located is like 5 minutes away. We are technically in Des Moines, but like the downtown district where our financial hubs and things of that nature are just about 5 minutes away. We are actually like third in the world per capita for insurance companies. It's London, Stamford, Connecticut, and then Des Moines, Iowa. So we have a ton of resources here, and we are constantly looking at ways that we can be a more attractive place for businesses to come, for entrepreneurs, for people to want to move, to live and be. They are creating, they're doing some really cool work with the waterways in the city of Des Moines. They're going to have 150 miles of waterway trails that you can access. There was a new amphitheater built. We have a brand new skate park. So when the Olympics have the trials, we will actually host Olympic trials, skate parks, which will be really, I think, pretty cool and interesting. There's wineries. I mean, there's all of that. It's right here. And our students leverage that for just what you mentioned. We have 7 hospitals in the city of Des Moines. We have so many different internships that students can access. And I should mention too, Drake is one of 2 4-year institutions in the entire city of Des Moines. We have one other institution that's a little bit different than Drake, and we have a medical school in Des Moines. But the closest large institution is Iowa State, which is still about 35 to 45 minutes away from Des Moines, depending on kind of where you're coming and going from. So we are actually one of 11 state capitals in the entire country that is a state capital without a public flagship. So we literally in the city of Des Moines have more internships than we have students to fill them. Meredith Corporation, Principal Financial, Wells Fargo, John Deere Financial, I mean, you name it, it's here. Hy-Vee, which is a huge very cool, fun grocery store chain that's here in the city. And so students can access these things and they don't have to wait for the summer. The summer might send them to Connecticut or to LA or to Minneapolis or to Chicago. But if they want to pursue that stuff year round, they can do that here in our backyard.
I'm talking to you from New Jersey. And if you were to meet people from New Jersey who typically don't go this far away to college, what would you tell them what stereotypes would you need to quash, and what would you tell them to get them to think about, something different?
Yeah. Well, I would say, go on. One thing I would say is it's not a farm. We're not in a farm town. Des Moines is not a farm town. We certainly have ag business here, but it's a great place to be. There are wonderful career opportunities in ag business if that's something that you want to pursue. But it is not a place where it's just rolling with cornfields and that you're in a town with 2 restaurants and a bar. This is a place where it is thriving. I will say, just to name drop, Facebook, Apple, and Google, I think have over the last 5 years invested billions of dollars in the city of Des Moines for data centers and other sort of infrastructure. We've got 3, I think, Amazon distribution places. So this is a place where people want to be. So I would say it's not corn all the time and pigs and farms and things like that. You will see that here. And I will say it's really beautiful. It is not New York City. But I think that's part of the college experience, is that you're coming to look and learn and experience different things. I would say there's also a nice mentality here of like a Midwestern kindness. There are people here, they're not uneducated. They are not, just, having rolled in off of a rural space. You will meet people who have wonderful experiences, backgrounds, educational, experiences, but it's not, it's a place where you can come and have a life. And make a life for yourself. But there's a Midwestern kindness that you'll find people here. They have a really strong work ethic, but people are really good people. They're kind, they're neighborly. Your success is our success, I think is really important. I think one of the comments that I hear from families the most, and this is students that come from anywhere in the country to visit Drake, and over 70% of our students actually come from outside the state of Iowa. So I think that's also important to know, that it's not just a bunch of Iowans that are at our school. Is that when I talk to them and I'll say, okay, well, what did you think about Des Moines? If they stayed the night before, or they went out to dinner or something, and they'll say, we were so surprised. This was not what we expected. And surprised in a really positive way. We have rooftops where you can grab a drink downtown. I mean, there is a sense of culture here. We bring in Broadway shows and concerts and speakers, and you can get to them, and they don't cost you $300 a ticket plus parking. You can park downtown for $2 an hour or less, and your ticket to the show was $30. And so you get a chance to sort of have the best of both worlds. So I guess I don't know if those are maybe myths, but also just maybe some things to keep in mind if you haven't thought about Iowa. But we've got some really incredible public institutions as well. Iowa is the largest teaching hospital in the world, so we have access to that kind of research. We have incredible veterinary programs at the Iowa State. Like it's a really wonderful, wonderful place to live. Even if you come here for 4 years and you decide to go elsewhere, but it's a really great experience.
Do alumni who remain in the area come back to campus?
Oh yeah. I would say the Drake Alumni Network is extremely strong. Over 50% of our graduates will stay in Des Moines after they graduate, because they like it, not because this is the only place they could get a job, but they come here and they're like, if over 70% of our students are coming from outside the state, they come to Des Moines and they're like, this place is great. I don't know that I want to move. I've got everything I need right here. I'm in the middle of the country. I can get on an airplane to, get cheap flights to different places if I wanted to visit another place for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, those are some other wonderful features too.
Are people shopping Drake against, say, the Big Ten schools, Big 12, schools in the same sports conference? What are people thinking about when they
Absolutely.
come on your campus?
Yeah, so definitely Big 10, definitely Big 12. We'll get students that are looking at all of those programs. We'll also, or all of those schools. We'll also get, so we're thinking Midwestern schools. But I would say too, if your student is looking at like medium-sized private institutions, other schools that would come to mind are like a Butler, a Xavier, a St. Louis University, St. Thomas up in Minneapolis, Creighton, University of Denver, TCU, that kind of blend of schools is like a medium-sized private that you would find. Often Drake would be on the list of some of those students that might be looking at both of those places.
Some of those schools you mentioned, like the University of Denver and TCU, people from California often think about those schools. Have you been doing more outreach in California?
Yeah, we actually have a regional that lives in Denver who manages our California territory. Yep. And Arizona. So we're seeing an uptick in students coming from those places. And we have two reps that also live in Texas too.
And has your enrollment outside the Midwest grown in the last few years?
For that reason, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing I think that's been nice for Drake, we get a lot of attention around the political season as well, because we are a state capital. If you have a student that's interested in politics, there is no better place to study politics, strategic political communication, law, politics, and society than Drake in Des Moines, Iowa. The access that our students have to presidential candidates, to campaigns, to just the political sphere in general it's unprecedented anywhere else. CNN was literally camp out on our campus for probably 2.5 months behind one of our main buildings. And we hosted numerous events, the Democratic debate. A student will say to you, like, if you're a Drake student and you haven't met at least like half of the presidential candidates that are running, like, you've been living under a rock at Drake. Like, you literally just bump into them at the Starbucks when you're getting coffee. Students will shake hands with every single candidate that's running, and we get political parties, both political parties that will be on our campus, which is really cool because students get a chance to get access and exposure to all of those things. And I think that's important when we think about civil discourse and how to have those conversations. But Des Moines is a special place for students that want that type of experience. We have students that will have experiences, or graduates that are in the White House working for their lobby firms, going to DC. It's a really, really unique space to be.
Now, you mentioned Olympians and Olympics a couple of moments ago. Drake has the Drake Relays. And are they an activity that students attend as well as
Oh yeah,
community?
absolutely. Yep. So the Drake Relays are a huge tradition on our campus. We are the second largest track meet in the country. And we do bring in Olympians. We bring in it's Olympians, it's collegiate athletes as well as high school athletes too. So they all get a chance to get exposed to, some really incredible, great athletes. And when you and Drake Relays, there's a lot that goes on campus around the Drake Relays. It's almost like a homecoming in the spring. So we have food trucks, we have festivals, we have what we call, it's a tradition on our campus called street painting, which is something that lives then in the middle of our campus. It's these beautiful, vibrantly painted squares that represent a particular theme or for organizations and clubs on our campus, which is really, really cool. It's something that certainly brightens up our campus and is one of our favorite spring traditions. It also turns into a massive paint fight where students will have, their memories that they make, it's a lot of fun. But we also have the beautiful bulldog contest where people actually from across the country will bring their bulldog to be judged on campus. I think the winner a couple years ago was from like Washington State. I mean, this is a big deal. If you are a dog person or a bulldog person, we actually have a live mascot. His name is Griff, so he's a huge part of this whole thing. And he's, a dog that we see across the campus all the time. He's just such a wonderful personality in addition to our campus community. But those are all, but yeah, Drake Relays are a big deal. They are a really, really fun experience that our students have on our campus, and it's something we're really proud of.
Is there a natural sports rivalry? Because Drake plays in a different conference for football than it does in other sports. But is there like a regular rival that people like Duke plays North Carolina, everybody gets excited. Iowa might play Illinois or Nebraska and everybody gets excited. Does Drake have a natural rival?
Yeah, it's so interesting you asked that because I feel like, in different sports it might be different because we have the Pioneer League and that's football. And so then I would say like in our conference, I would say you've got like the UNI game is always big because it's an in-state rival, but certainly Loyola because they're an extremely talented basketball team. Drake is currently 20-0, and we did lose one game to Loyola this past weekend, but we beat them in the second one, all without one of our best players who had just was injured the game prior to the Loyola match. So I would say that there's a healthy rivalry too with our other publics. So Iowa State, when we get a chance to play them, that's always something big. But yeah, and it's kind of fun because you sort of intermix around, and it might be that this is a school we compete with or we're similar to, but they're not in our conference. And so yeah, but there's certainly a lot around that too.
So if I was to come to campus at a perfect time, assuming weather and pandemic were not around, I should be there for the Loyola basketball game.
Yes, that's a good one. Absolutely. Yeah.
So students are on campus now. Did they have to go home last spring?
They did. Yep. They went home in the spring, just pretty much like everybody around the world. And then they started back up in the fall, and they took classes in a virtual environment for the first 2 weeks of campus. our first 2 weeks of classes, so we kind of let a cycle of the virus play out. And then they were able to do some of their hybrid courses and some virtual classes. And then in the spring, we did the same thing, but we pushed out their arrival to campus by a couple of weeks because we wanted to make sure that we were, trying to keep everybody as safe as possible. And so we don't have a spring break this year, which kind of stinks for our students and faculty and staff. But it's, all in good decision making.
Did Drake need to dedensify for the fall?
No, I mean, we had plans for students. We had a place where we were able to send students that were, that had contracted the virus, so that we could make sure that they were staying secluded and isolated from others. But no, we didn't say, okay, only so many students could come back or anything like that. But some students made that decision, just based on their own family situation, their own comfort level. So that was.
So if you signed up for a double room, you're in a double room.
Oh, I see. Yes, if they wanted to, absolutely, they were able to. But then we also had students that we said, if you want to live in a single for the first year, that is absolutely okay too. And we did not charge students extra for that either, if they wanted to.
So anyone who needed housing on campus could have housing on campus.
That's right. Yep, we made it work.
And has the university been able to work with, because you mentioned the medical community a few moments ago.
Oh yeah.
The university's worked well with the medical community in case there was, reasons for quarantine.
Yep. And what's really cool and exciting actually is our College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, our pharmacy students and our health sciences students in those programs, they were able to volunteer to help with testing when students moved in. They were able to assist with, we also actually had, I talked to one of our ambassadors, Peyton, he actually, among all of our pharmacy students, they had access to take extra credits at the very beginning of this semester to get certified in vaccine distribution. So we actually have pharmacy students from Drake that are administering vaccines to the public and to some of our faculty and staff that qualify, which is really cool. So that's happening on our campus. Our students are getting this certification as a part of their undergraduate degree, and they're able to actually make a difference in the pandemic and moving us forward, which is pretty cool.
Last question, and it's related to that. Is there a growing sense of optimism on campus that we'll all get through this together?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'm convinced that the reason we've done so well is because we've had this in it together mentality. We actually just received our spring to fall retention numbers, and they're actually in the range of what we would have received in any other normal cycle, which I think is really remarkable. I think it certainly speaks to the dedication, the commitment, the creativity, the innovation that our faculty and staff have done to meet students where they're at. We're all in this really weird, bizarre, difficult time, and we banded together to kind of figure it out. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know faculty are anxious to get back to teaching in person. I'm very hopeful, I'm sure like the rest of the country, that with vaccine rollouts coming and starting to hopefully pick up some steam here, that, by the summer, hopefully more people, the more general public will also be vaccinated and we can resume some more normal activity. We know that there still will likely be masks for a while, right? We're all just kind of, I'm not, at least my personal opinion is that I don't know that that's going away right away, right? Based on what I'm hearing. But yes, absolutely. General optimism that we will get through it together. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, how do you get through it? And it's kind of like, well, you just don't really have a choice, right? So you just figure out, how do we put one foot in front of the other? How do we make the next right decision? How do we band together as a team to get creative, to think about new ways of doing things, and then serving our families to the best of our ability to making sure that they get what they need. I think that's part of the culture at Drake is, we think our degree means something. And if you're going to pay to come here, we want to deliver on those expectations. We want to make sure that our students are getting the education that we promise them.
And thank you for spending the time with me this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I really enjoyed speaking with you, and would love to have some more students from New Jersey. We would love, love, love to have more of them.
Thank you again.
Absolutely.